So you decided to focus on your physical health this year and you landed on herbalism and natural remedies. That is amazing. Congratulations. That's so exciting. But with the excitement, we all know it could be very overwhelming and there's a ton of information out there which can leave you a little bit paralyzed and feeling like you're on an island all by yourself. This is why I'm so happy that you're here. You get to see a conversation between me and my good friend Cassandra from Becoming a Farm Girl. We're talking about our own journey in herbalism and how we got started, how we felt, and the things that we've learned. Now, this is a three-part series, and in today's video, we talk about our experiences of how we got started, how we felt, some of the things that we were learning. I have provided a link to Cassandra's channel, Becoming a Farm Girl. Feel free to check her out. If you have time, grab a drink, pull up a chair, and enjoy the conversation. If you're busy, totally get it. Pop us in your ear and go about your day as you listen to our discussions. All right. How are you, Cassandra? Being all extra.
We were chatting this morning since like 6:30. No, I am good, Celeste. How are you? Where is Amari? Where are your children? I was like, how did you actually carve out this time?
Girl, I was gonna say I threatened your lives, but I did not do that. I usually look, I usually bribe, but no, Amari should be in her bed now, and
Okay.
to play in the room for about at least 45 minutes or so. There's
Okay.
some noise in the background, but it's all good. It's all good. But I've as I've been on this YouTube journey, they've understood. Okay, mom's recording, and
Yeah.
they're trying to tiptoe. Like, you don't have to tiptoe. Just don't come in my camera.
Yes. Yes. No, I totally get that. My family will be the same way. They'll see the camera, be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
So bad.
Yes.
Don't get caught. You know that game, Don't Wake Daddy or something like that? It's like a really old school game. That's
Yes.
how they do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, what are you drinking?
I am drinking, I think it's a chamomile rooibos blend. It's really good, just really calming for midday.
Yeah, I have the Celestial Nights that you so graciously named.
Yes.
You need to calm down a little bit.
Very good. Very good.
We're kind of matching almost, kind of.
We are. We didn't even do that on purpose. I love it. We're going with like the crochet theme.
You've inspired me to thrift a little bit more, and I found this beauty.
We did, along with like two other things that are
I
gorgeous.
know, girl. They will eventually get worn, I promise. I promise.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna hold you to it.
So my audience may know you, they may not, but I wanted to let you know, or wanted to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and just tell us who you are and what you do and how awesome you are.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So my name's Cassandra. I'm in Maryland. I live here with my husband, who's a Navy chief, and our fur baby, a French bulldog named Thor. And online, I have been sharing the story of my personal journey towards becoming a farm girl. And what that kind of entails, or what that backstory is that my husband and I, after he retires, we have this dream and calling really to become homesteaders. But the reality is that neither he nor I were raised on a farm. And so we've really been using the past couple of years to cultivate homesteading skills in a small space and in our spare time. And that's what I share. We live in a townhouse. I have 5 grain stalk vertical planters where I am harvesting pounds of food each week, sometimes more than folks with in the ground gardens. I have a canning closet with at least 500 jars that I've been building up over the past almost decade or so. And it's just been such an awesome journey to see what you can do with a small space and while you're waiting for the fruition of something to happen. And I just want to encourage others that sometimes you can feel kind of hopeless when you're in like the waiting stages of something happening. But now I realized and appreciated this time that we have before that next step happens would be invaluable. I have met the people that I have met, the online community, of people that have shared their stories and been such a blessing to me. It's been awesome. So that's who I am. Kind of like online is mostly what I share, but I also share the story of, my family and day to day. And so, yeah, we're in Central Maryland. For the past 8 years, I've been an assistant principal, and yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That sounds amazing, Cassandra. And that's one thing that made me fall in love with your channel. And then as I got to know you throughout the years, it's just been completely awesome. God has been so good in our relationship. Tell us your channel name.
Oh, it is the name of my channel is Becoming a Farm Girl, because that is truly what you are seeing happening, the process of how I am becoming a farm girl. And I want to meet others that are doing the same and also on their journeys.
I'm one of them.
You are, yes, you're becoming a farm girl too.
Girl, I think it's awesome that you really inspire a lot of people actually. Like on Facebook groups, I've seen people mention your name about the vertical gardening thing, and they're like, listen to Cassandra, she's awesome. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, she is awesome. You just don't know how awesome she is.
Well, tell us. That's still so weird to me. Yeah.
would, I wouldn't tell you if it wasn't true. Okay, I think you know me well enough to know that
Oh,
I.
for sure, for sure. Yes.
All right, let's dive a little bit more into like your garden, but more specifically herbs. Like what really made you get into it? And we can share both of our stories, but what made you get into it?
Wow, Celeste, this is such a there's not kind of one thing that made me get into herbs. I think that's a lot of people's stories, and the same with your story as well. So I feel like I'm going to kind of jump all over the place, but I feel like the past year or so, it's really become the best that it's ever been, and very streamlined and very intentional. And so I don't know. I think kind of early on, it was my fascination with just the beauty of seeing herbs in jars. Anytime you've stepped into like a health or wellness shop, or something like that, you just kind of see that display. And I don't know who isn't drawn to it. So I have kind of like early memories of that. And then I think it's just the enjoyment of tea in and of itself. I love historical dramas, and one of the things that's always depicted is a beautiful tea parlor. And so there's always been this like artistry of like the china and like the loose leaf, herbs, and the different taste once I started to just get into, like box teas.
Mhm.
But more recently, kind of like as an adult, more so like entering into my late 20s, it was more of an awareness that to treat kind of acute problems like sleepless nights, or like aches and pains, that I didn't always have to rely on something that was commercial, that there were actually alternatives. And I think part of that budding homesteader that was kind of like bubbling up in me, I was already turning to doing things myself in a variety of other areas. So like it was kind of in the background with that. But then really, I think what solidified a lot of it for me here more recently was my process of becoming a hunter and being out in the woods. I know, who saw that coming too? But realizing that I loved being out in the woods, and there was it's an entire world that I, had not experienced to that degree. But my mentor was really sharing with me the importance of understanding like what plants were what, and developing a more discerning eye. Because before that, I'm just like, oh, there are a lot of trees, grass, but I didn't have like this acute kind of, like looking at different things, and then understanding what their medicinal properties like are. And it's like, what? There's free medicine like that's growing around here? Like, what do you mean? And so between that and then having a sick pup and trying to treat him because vet bills are astronomical, it really kind of put me on a path towards understanding how I could take healing into, my own hands.
Yeah, for sure, girl. It is one of the scariest things to get into now because what is put, I think we're both okay with Western medicine. It has its place, but it's so widely pushed, and herbs was have been used for like the ancients of times. You were reading me some things. I was like, oh, okay. That has been kind of pushed out, and what's been the norm now is to go straight to the doctors, and they have their place. They're awesome, right?
For sure.
But the things that God has given us in this world are for our health. And that was one thing I was reflecting on in our conversation from this morning. These conversations you and I were having about, the physical body, spiritual, blah, blah, blah. They didn't really have to think about that because they were already eating healthy. Like they
Exactly.
it wasn't a thought to them.
Yep.
Like, and I was really mulling over what you were saying. I was like, huh, this wasn't a thought because they ate good. They didn't have gummy bears, Celeste.
Exactly. No, you're right. Exactly. You're you're so right on that, girl. Yeah. Yeah. And then it also made me kind of think about, it was interesting how we go back to like the Greek and the Hebrew, like their translations, but also when we think about the way that they were eating and the way we even talk about, oh, the Mediterranean diet and the Greek kind of diet, those are still the healthiest diets in the world, right? But here we are like in America, and we know that our food system and the taste that we have developed, is largely poisonous. So it's unlearning that, right? Because we're in that, you know what I mean? And that's where you see like getting out of the
Yeah.
world, right? And so things that yeah. Yep,
It's
exactly right.
really good. So I'm glad to have that different angle. So the things that God's given us, we have what we need. He knew what would happen. So he already made what we need to sustain the bodies that are dying, decaying, but we don't have to die fast, right? We can literally eat the herbs that he's given us, the natural foods, the actual foods, and not processed stuff. And so that's something that we have to unlearn, like you were saying, the what we're taught as a kid. I mean, I remember my son was 1. He's 13 now. Gosh, I'm sorry. He was the one, and I'm in the store, and I literally see this little toddler with a diaper on drinking a Fanta orange soda. And I remember
Yeah.
thinking, wow, but that's their norm,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what's in that drink? Sugar, a
Yeah.
bunch of chemicals, and that's
Yeah.
not healthy. That is not. We're not meant to consume those things. So unlearning all of that to get back to the original, which was our bitter greens and the trees that have fruits, and we've learned recently about the roots of things, how they benefit. It's just been so emotionally tiring, exciting, exhilarating, overwhelming,
Yeah.
awesome, all in all of it at the same time.
For
And
sure.
I recently got stuck, and you were like, let's get out of it. And it was just like, wait.
Yes.
But your reasoning for starting herbs is awesome. And I think it was not the same, but kind of similar. Like I've always been like intrigued. Like the bottles that they have, like my grandma used to watch Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and what was the other one? There was another one. I don't remember, but it was you saw the bag that she had, and she brought out all her stethoscopes and whatever else, and she had herbs, and they did all these things, and it's just like, okay. And I've never been one of the, like, I've never been one to hunt, girl. I don't, you're brave. You're brave, but it has intrigued me like years ago. Like I want to be more natural as I go on this crunchy journey, right? Crunchy.
Right.
But it was just it can be overwhelming. But recently, and I don't remember exactly what was the thought of me getting into. I saw your video with the apothecary, and I was like, okay, all right, God, I know I'm gonna start it. And that really just kind of made me like, okay, I need to at least get 5 things. And so I went down that rabbit hole of what 5 herbs to get, and then you kind of get lost in that and get like 1,000 herbs.
Yes. Yes.
But but yeah, it's all about the health, right? We want to be healthy. We want those around us to be healthy. And you have these medicines that fix a problem, but they cause 10 other problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
I loved what Barbara O'Neill was saying, how herbs, they knock on, she was talking about estrogen. They knock on the door, hey, do you need me? And they're like, no, okay. Well, they'll
Mhm.
sit there and fortify and make sure nothing gets in, as
Right.
opposed of synthetically created herbs. They just bombard, and then they overload your body with hormones that your body really doesn't need or may not need at the time. And it just causes a whole bunch of other stuff. So I like that. And it really, really resonated with me.
Absolutely. That's such a beautiful story. Yeah. No, you're right. You raised so many excellent points there. It's a big journey. It's a lot. I think that's one thing that you and I have helped each other with is when you kind of come to herbalism, you're very excited in the beginning, and there's definitely like motivation to like dive in and jump in. But there are so many different pivots that will still happen and pretty early on in your journey too, right? Because some of your initial like thought processes around like now switching to herbal medicine, you're not asking the same questions in terms of like, okay, so how much do I take and when? You're talking now in the language of, okay, like how do I kind of build up to this? You're checking in with yourself more. And as you said, there's a lot of information that's out there. And so you're learning like how to build an apothecary that you're actually like using and making sense and not getting like information overload and that kind of thing. But it's definitely worth the layers of like understanding, learning and unlearning as you go through it. And I think it's so re-energizing. And I think that's the part kind of where we're at now to be like, okay, so we've gone kind of like through this learning cycle, and then you go through another one that deepens your understanding and another one that deepens your understanding.
It's definitely a journey, but a great, and it's good to have someone who is starting out kind of at exactly the same level as you are, so you guys can kind of help push each other through those loop-de-loops. Because it's
No, for sure. That's what I have loved about us is that it's definitely been like coming to herbalism with some foundation, right? Like you kind of know why you need to start moving in this direction, but you're not kind of like bogged down by like the new like nomenclature of botanical medicine. And so I think you and I both still have this kind of like childlike curiosity that keeps it fun, and even though we have similar outcomes with what we want herbs to do, you have been drawn to certain kind of like herbs while I'm drawn to other herbs. And so we both get to like chit chat about our stories. And it's not the same one, but it's like, I'm gonna like hold it in my back pocket. Or sometimes what you've heard or read or seen or listened to or are using is something that I don't know connects to what I'm doing. And
yeah,
back and forth. So it's definitely been fun in a way that I think if I just had books and YouTube, it could feel clinical really fast,
yeah.
in a way where you're like, oh, this is herbalism. But now, like with you and I, it's like, look at the beautiful jar I have. Let's try this new infusion
I
together. I mean,
know.
it's really been like, that's what you kind of need. Or like, hold on, let's show our tea sets that we got.
I know.
Like having a tea friend, I think it's essential when you are learning about herbalism for sure.
Yeah, 'cause I've always been like, I'm more of a coffee person. Coffee has its place, but it doesn't give you the added benefits. Well, I mean, it has antioxidants, but you literally drown that out with like creamer and sugar. I do. But with tea, like the herbal tea, well, all teas are herbal, but the teas that you can formulate yourself, like I have a red clover, lavender, chamomile. Those are all really good for like calming your nervous. Well, the chamomile, the lavender is calming your nervous system. Red clover is really good for like the hormones and just kind of helping your body just settle. And I love that. And so I know for a while you were like Arctica diluca, and I was on Archelius mellifolium
Milifolium. Yep, that's right. Yarrow.
because I think wasn't a song that you sung, or was it?
There was a horrible little rhyming song that, yes, I shared with you.
But
It-
it helped me.
I forgot all about that.
Until just now.
Yes, yeah, it was so bad that fell out of memory. But yeah.
It wasn't as bad as you think. Oh my goodness. So as I think we probably already talked about this, but what has been the biggest takeaway so far, like, from where you started and where you are now? And we'll dive more into where you are now in a little bit.
That's a lot. That's a lot because I feel like I'm learning so much. I don't want to ramble too much, but I guess I would have to say is it has been so um awe-inspiring for me to literally see. I live in a suburban, neighborhood, right? And so There's the townhouse development in the front, and then the houses are further back. There are plenty of like, parks to walk and, shopping centers and all of those different things. But what I have realized just in the short amount of time that I've been foraging, which really was late spring, are the number of medicinal plants that are right here in my bioregion. And I think it's so fun. I don't know how many times I have, that we've talked about, like, Celeste, look at what I just found. Oh my goodness. Like, how is this here for free for me to harvest? I've come here all of no, not all of my life. I've lived, in my city for the past 10 years, but like, I've been on this path for like, the last 8 years walking Thor, and I never realized this patch was right here in the cracks of my sidewalk, in, the woods behind our house. And so when you start to see that there are so many medicines that you don't have to or constituents, right? Or like teas that you can drink that you don't have to necessarily run out and go and buy, right? Either at the store or online, but they're bursting from, as I said, the cracks of the cement. That's been awesome to see God's provision, right? And yes, like man has done a lot to eliminate so much of what's around, but I think having a greater appreciation for my specific bioregion when it comes to understanding herbs, because not only are there what I would call kind of like the main stage herbs that you hear about all of the time, but one thing that I started to realize is I was finding some of those, right? But then there were also things that I was discovering that I wasn't as readily finding in, the books that I have, but they also had medicinal properties because they're native to Maryland. And
Right.
so that really just connected me, a person who, yearns to steward a piece of property one day. I now feel tied to my land here, where I live and play and go to work and have community in a way that I didn't before, because I now know that at, this park by the stream, you can find echinacea, or I now know that at, another location, if you go, 20 feet back, you will find, another type of herb. And I think that's special knowledge that when we talk about where we live and the resources, we're going to name a business, or we're going to name, maybe a school or something like that, but I can now name natural resources, right? And I don't know, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool because I feel like I know my land in a way that's beyond street signs.
Yeah. That is important. And that is
Yeah.
when you send me the Marco Polo videos, you're like, oh, that's this. That's that. Sus, I found this. Bro, your knowledge has and your recognition, how quickly you can recognize something has grown quickly and expanded. Like, oh my goodness. I don't know. It amazes me. I'm like, I should probably get out more. That's what I usually think to myself
Yeah,
before getting distracted with a 1-year-old who is very demanding. Good God.
exactly. No, for sure, for sure.
But when you were talking about the stuff coming out of the cracks, it just immediately was like, and God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding the seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with a seed and its fruit, and you should have them for food." But I don't know, it just made me think about that because man
Oh yeah.
changed the world so much, and we have Siemens, and nothing that the man can do will hinder what God is doing. He's
Amen.
like, you're gonna have this medicine, you're gonna have this food, and it's gonna grow. I mean, it's concrete, and green flowers that are delicate can push through it. Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? So,
Yeah.
uh,
No, it's yeah. I came across this. I heard it somewhere that it was talking about how it would take maybe something like, and this could be wrong, but it was still like a super short amount of time where if an entire kind of city was abandoned, that it would only take 30 years for like it to look like a forest again. You know what I mean? So when you think, yeah, like isn't that just incredible? Well, we think we have these like indelible structures that are up, right? No,
yeah,
we don't, because like you said, even something as gentle as like you cannot stop Again, and it's such sometimes I think on the very hard days, right? Or just when you need that inspiration. Now, when I see weeds that are like weeds that are poking up through the concrete, I'm like, yes, you go, you do it. I'm so happy to see you, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because like as I'm talking to my husband about the weeds and herbs, and I heard him say, now I have to look at weeds differently. I was like, yeah, because they're not weeds at all. And
Yeah,
it makes you, when you really dive into the world, because God doesn't call them weeds,
exactly.
does he? Like I don't remember weeds being in the Bible, you know,
Right.
besides, weeds and whatever. But no, that's wheat and tares, something completely different.
Right. Or like, the practice of like weeding your garden. Like there's
Yeah,
that too, for sure, work, but not in this kind of like they shouldn't be there at all. They don't have a
yeah,
place.
yeah.
Weeds as in no benefit at all kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. And so he gives us these plants and these herbs for our bodies, our healing, and our food. When
Yeah.
he when the people, this was in Exodus, when they were doing the Passover, the sacrifices, he told them eat all the meat. And you mentioned that to me too. And I was reading and I was like, oh yeah, because you were talking about the bitter fruits. It helps you digest and helps you fortify your digestive system.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's the reason.
Absolutely.
I think it into like the more biblical aspect of herbs and herbalism. Because I know a lot of people, including myself to a certain extent, view the like the more in-depth herbalism as witchcraft. Some parts of it,
Yeah.
some things are, we have to acknowledge that some things are,
Next time
but
on this Herbal Chat with Cassandra.
biblically. And if we're open to the truth, we have to accept the fact that the truth is these herbs.
Many that I think speak to this point. We both were like, oh my gosh, who drinks this?
Give me a second, because I'm literally about to start just being in tears.
I hope this conversation between Cassandra and I really helped you unpack your feelings around getting started with herbalism. I know it could be a scary thing to think about herbalism and if it goes against the Bible, and is God pleased with all of this? So video 2 in this 3-part series is going to go over what the Bible says about herbalism and how we can make sure that we're honoring God with the things that he has given us. So I will see you over there.